What is up, everybody? We got a huge video for y'all today. We're going over our final four predictions for March Madness. We are starting with the East region. Tyler, lead us off. Who's your pick to come out of the East region?
Yeah, so my pick to come out of the East is the Auburn Tigers. Um, my explanation, Auburn's the only team on the KenPom basketball rating with a top 10 adjusted defense and offense. So that kind of explains that they can play both sides of the ball really well. Um, I think their defense is rated fourth in the country, adjusted defense, and their offense is rated 10th. So that's really strong looking for them in the tournament. They can play both sides of the ball well. They're fourth on the KenPom outright, which is pretty remarkable. The only three one seeds are above them out of the whole country. So as a four seed, that's pretty ridiculous. They just won the SEC tournament, which you know what? In March, you wouldn't be hot at the right time, and that's what they are right now. Just won the SEC. They're rolling. The Auburn Tigers look good, so I like that. They also shoot a true shooting percentage of 58%, which is really high. That's one of the highest in the whole tournament. So you like to see that. They can make their shots in big games, especially with the competition they play. A true shooting percentage like that is nice to see. They have a really high net rating and a good pace of play, which means they can adjust to both teams' pace of play along with their high net rating, which will allow them to win games. And then Evan Mia has what he calls a kill shot metric, and Auburn has a really high kill shot metric, which means that they go on lots of runs. Every game they're going on runs, which is 10-0 runs, and they basically don't allow any, which is important going to March, especially when you play teams on their side of the bracket where they have to play UConn potentially at some point, maybe Baylor. I believe. I'm not sure, but that UConn matchup, Iowa State matchup, those are going to be tough for them. So being able to go on runs is important for that side of the bracket. So yeah, I have Auburn coming out of the East.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm going to piggyback off you there, Tyler, and I'm going to say Auburn is also coming out of the East region. Like you said, they play very well on both sides of the ball, and they defend the three ball specifically, one of the best teams in the country at that. And, that's one of the big things in March Madness, as I'll say over and over again. Every video, you'll hear me saying it. Those teams that live and die by the three ball, they either make runs or they go out early. So if you can stop those teams, you're setting yourself in a good position to make a long, deep turning run. I don't know if this team is necessarily capable of winning a national championship, but they're more than capable of making it to a Final Four in this region. So I'm with you, Tyler Foley.
Yeah, while I do like the Auburn pick, I think they're really hot right now. I think a team that's hotter than them right now is the Iowa State Cyclones. I think that coming through March, being able to dominate the Big 12 tournament like they have, they dominated Houston like no other team has done this year. That win alone impressed me a lot. And the way they play defense, they're very aggressive. They love to get people out of their comfort zone. They like to attack the game plans early. And a team like that gives me confidence in March. Their backcourt duo and Team Lipsy and Kayshawn Gilbert, very very good, very solid, very well rounded. I think this team can make me have a huge spark, and I think they're going to win the East region.
Okay. Moving on right into the West region, I'm going to go with the one seed North Carolina Tar Heels. And, the story of this team for me is their experience. They have two players with over 2,000 career points in Armando Bacot and RJ Davis, ACC Player of the Year. And when you get experience in March in those crunch time situations, that's where, you really see the difference between a freshman and a senior. They make smarter decisions. They're more seasoned. You can just see it in the way they play. They don't panic towards the end of ball games. And that's something that really carries you through March. In March, anything can happen. You'll have close games no matter who you're playing against. So the ability to close out close games is incredibly important. And, they had a strong season, obviously. They were a one seed. So you couple that with the fact that they're seasoned and they're just perfectly positioned to make a run here.
I completely agree. You hit the nail right on the head, and that's also why I think North Carolina is going to win the West region. I think that they are a very, very well-rounded team. I think Armando Bacot and RJ Davis, they again have the experience. They've been here before. They know what to do in this situation. I think that their coaching staff is doing a really good job of rounding them. I mean, they're way better than they have been the past couple of seasons, in my opinion, personally. Even though they did make the national championship a couple of years ago, I think that personally this team is better than that. I think they've had the ability for me to close out games in a very very good manner the way they haven't been in the past, and I think R.J. Davis plays a big role in that. The way he stepped up this year, the way he's been able to be able to step up in big games, which he hasn't been before, has been really good for me. in my beliefs, which is why I think North Carolina is winning this region.
Okay. I mean, I see North Carolina obviously a 1 seed, very experienced, good team going into that region. But I look at the West differently. I see the West as the region of upsets. I like Michigan State potentially knocking out North Carolina in the round of 32, and New Mexico also potentially going on a deep run that could take out teams like Baylor, or Arizona. So with that happening, that really opens up this conference to anyone, and that is why I have St. Mary's in the Final Four out of this conference. St. Mary's has such an elite defense, one of the best defenses in the country. They also play very, very slow pace of play, but they have such a high net rating, which means they're an absolute nightmare to play against. You do not want to play against this team. They're just going to wear you down minute after minute after minute. And that's important in going into March to make these deep runs. We saw that Virginia team that won the national championship honestly look kind of similar to this team with the way they play. High net rating, super slow pace of play. They'll just wear you down over time. So I like St. Mary's for that. Also, I mentioned earlier Evan Mia's kill shot metric with Auburn. St. Mary's is in the same situation. They go on lots of runs, lots of 10-0 runs, and they hardly allow any. So I like that for St. Mary's as well. They also have a 93.6 opponent efficiency. So that's the efficiency they allow. The next closest in the West region is a 99, and that's 1 seed UNC. That 93.6 opponent efficiency that St. Mary's has is the third best in the whole tournament, outside of McNeese State and Houston. So having that opponent efficiency, being able to wear down teams, I think this St. Mary's team is going to be a nightmare to play against in March. They're going to wear you down. You're not going to want to play against you. They're going to use their defense, play super slow, and they're just going to wear teams down. That's why I have St. Mary's in the Final Four.
Yeah, so for the next region, the South region, it is a very, very loaded one. A lot of teams that can make a run here, including Duke, Kentucky, James Madison, Nebraska. A lot of these teams have very, very good star power. And the team that I think has the most star power is Houston. I mean, they are the number 1 seed. I think that Jamal Shed is one of the best guards in the country. I think that Kelvin Sampson is one of my favorite coaches based on how he's really good at adjusting. He's one of the few coaches that I see can totally change defense coming out of the break. I think that LJ Cryer is also really good on that backcourt. I think Houston has the ability and the physicality and the all-around awareness of a team that can win it all very easily. I think they remind me a lot of this Villanova team that won a cup not too long ago. I think that they're very well-rounded, very physical, very good at rebounding, everything you want in number 1 seed, which is why I think they're going to be winning this South region.
You know, Connor, I'm with you here on Houston. Houston's a team that really for the past 5 years has just been knocking on that door of being one of the elite programs in basketball year after year. I think right now they've hit that stage. They got an elite defense as they have every year for the last 5 years. They're the best rebounding team in the nation. You know, those are two things you can rely on to show up every single game. You can't count on three-point shooting. You can't count on your offense to show up every game. Your defense and rebounding will show up every game no matter who you play against. They are perfectly set up within this region to go on a run. I honestly think that for the majority of the year, I expected them to be the number 1 overall seed up until that last game against Iowa State, of course. But, you know, they have some big wins under their belt. They've beat Iowa State. They've beat Kansas. You know, they've beat BYU. All good tournament teams. BYU, I could see going on a run. So they've beat strong teams. They have an elite defense, elite rebounding. I think they're going to be in the Final Four, and this could potentially be their year to win it all.
Yeah, I like both of those picks. When I look at the South region, I see this region as the region of guards. You have Jamal Sheed at Houston. You have Tyler Kolek at Marquette. You have Reed Shepherd, Rob Dillingham at Kentucky. And you have Jared McCain at Duke. This region has ridiculous guard play. It's going to be fun to watch. But when I look at these guards, I want defense. Defense wins you championships. I'm going to piggyback on you guys and pick Houston to come out of this region. Houston has the second best defense in the country on the KenPom, which is obviously impressive. Defense wins you championships. I also personally look at that Iowa State loss as almost a good thing. I think they needed a wake-up call. They had been so hot, and they were getting confident going into the tournament. I feel like that loss to Iowa State might have been a wake-up call for them, that now this is not going to be easy. They're going to have to earn this Final Four bid and get to the national championship. They also have not lost to a team this season not in this tournament, which is also really impressive, so that you can't really call them a bad loss. They have the lowest opponent efficiency in the whole tournament. As I mentioned earlier, St. Mary's being the third lowest. Houston has the lowest, which is super impressive. great guard play, one of the best rebounding teams in the country. And then once again, lastly, I'm going to bring up that Evan Mias kill shot metric. Looking at the kill shot metric, Houston is in a completely league of their own on this metric. You have all these other teams, 1 seeds, 2 seeds, 3 seeds bunched together. Houston is on a completely different planet. They pretty much allow no runs against them outside of that Iowa State game, and they go on runs. They beat teams up. So I really like seeing that out of Houston. They're personally my pick for the national championship, and they're also my pick to come out of the South region.
Okay. Moving forward to the last final region here, the Midwest region. And I think this region contains the 2 best players in the country in Zach Edey and Dalton Knecht. So my pick for this region is going to be Tennessee. And honestly, this comes down to the fact that, well, for starters, they have one of, if not the best defense in the country. And then on the opposite side of the ball, you got Dalton Knecht, who I think is one of the best offensive players in the country. You got a high-octane offense. You got a good shot blocker. You got a good defense. You got all those key components. And, stars shine brightest in March, as everybody knows. I think as long as Dalton shows up as everybody's expecting him to, there's no reason Tennessee can't win a championship this year.
I 100% agree, which is why I also chose Tennessee. I think that one of the biggest recipes for success is shooting the 3 well and playing defense very well. Tennessee has that. They have a high-scoring offense. They have a very, very disruptive defense. Dalton Knecht is one of the best players in the nation. Ziegler is also a really good three-point shooter who is on their team. I think that Tennessee has a very well-rounded, very ready squad for this run. I think that they got a pretty good draw for the Midwest. I think that there is definitely some talent in this region, but I think mainly their main competition to win this is Purdue. I think that with the injury troubles that this region has had, especially with Kansas, it's going to be some serious loss in McCullough for them. I think that Kansas could have made a big run with him, but without him, it's kind of questionable at this point. I think it leaves a wide open door for someone like Tennessee or Purdue to swoop in. I think Tennessee's going to take the opportunity.
I think that's fair. I mean, I'm looking at the Midwest Division, and I see a lot of upsets here. I mean, you have McNeese State, which is a common upset pick, as we mentioned earlier, Samford as well, Oregon, Colorado State. A lot of these lower-seeded teams can win, which also makes this, I think, the weakest region of the tournament. And I have Purdue coming out of here. So a little bit differently from what you said, I think this is the best team they've ever had around Zach Edey. They're shooting 41% from 3, which is absolutely ridiculous. That's like the best three-point shooting percentage team in the country. And Jet mentioned earlier, three-point shooting can win you games, win you March Madness tournaments. So I really like their three-point shooting this year. They built a good team around Edey. I don't really love any teams in here outside of Creighton. I think Creighton's solid. They have that big man that can go compete with Edey. Other than that, I think it's a pretty good path for Purdue. Also, 4th best adjusted offense on the KenPom. They're going to get buckets. They're going to give you buckets all game, the whole game. And then also, what also flies under the radar, I know everyone talks about they've lost to FDU last year. They lost to St. Peter's 2 years ago, 16 seed, 15 seed the last 2 years. This year, they've proven themselves they can beat good teams. They beat Marquette this year. They beat Tennessee this year, Illinois, Alabama, Arizona. A lot of these top teams in the tournament, people are picking to go to the Final Four. Purdue has beaten them. I like Purdue this year. I think this is a new Purdue with the same superstar. I like what they've built around him. They also have a very high net rating and a stable pace of play, so they can compete with the teams playing super fast, super slow. That's why I like Purdue coming out of the Midwest.
Well, there you all have it. You have all 3 of our Final Fours out there on the table. I'm sure we'll look back at this in a month's time and think about how stupid we are. But, everybody, you got to let us know below who you think is going to make the Final Four and win it all, so we can talk about how stupid you are too. But anyways, guys, y'all have a good one. Expect more March Madness content in the coming days and weeks. But peace out, everybody.